Welcome to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today in the studio I'm joined by Lawrence Conley, our normal Tuesday colleague. Natasha Meikle will be joining us, I hope, at some point today. Lawrence, welcome back to State of Mind studio. Plenty to discuss, plenty happening in the world of Celtic. And you've not had the opportunity yet to discuss the fallout, the big fallout, obviously, from the Kyogo Furuhashi racism incident, which obviously we touched on the other day there because it occurred when Rangers fans were going to play Ross County in Dingwall. The social media video has then resulted in action being taken. How impressed were you with Celtic's, first of all? How impressed were you with Celtic's reaction to that and the statement that they made?
Listen, it's a positive move by Celtic speaking out in it. For me, there's no surprise the incident occurred in the first place. Not in, having lived in Scotland all my life, there's certainly no surprise that it occurred. It's positive that the club's starting to speak out in these things.
Yeah.
For him, we hear songs all the time, racist, anti-Irish songs, and by and large, Scotland are generally silent about it or pay it lip service. So it's a shame that this incident's happened, but I'm not surprised it's happened. But at least it's got a positive reaction from the club. They're now starting to speak out about these things. And indeed, Rangers have come out and condemned it, as I'm sure they will do if there's anything goes on at the weekend, any sectarian singing, etc.
Well, the big thing for me is the incident occurred, and then you're looking for that reaction. You're looking for positive action being taken by Celtic, and we saw that. Rangers obviously banned the fans who were responsible as well, and condemned the action. I go back, Lawrence, to interviews we've done on A Celtic State of Mind over the last year or two, because we've interviewed John Barnes twice, we've interviewed Paul Elliott, and Amy Canavan has also interviewed Paul Elliott for the Soccer Supernova show. And the theme of racism in football has been raised in all of these interviews, and the 4 occasions that we've had the opportunity to speak to Paul and John about racism in football. And on every occasion, they say, well, we can't speak about it in football. We need to speak about it in society. It's not something that you're going to the football and it switches on a button or a switch. It's something that exists in society. And yeah, it may be brought to the fore during a football encounter, because obviously there's a lot of kind of media coverage of these fixtures. They both said, but we need to eradicate it from society before it will disappear from football. It's not a football issue, it's a society issue.
Definitely, there's definite tolerance of it. I think within Scotland, certainly there is an anti-Irish racism and sectarianism. What was it, 68 or something, the Equalities Act came in, and there was the old Rangers, before they were defunct, for a number of years after that, operated a discriminatory signing policy, contravention of the law, in full view of the whole society, and it was allowed. So you're setting a mindset for the society. Then these kind of things are allowed.
State of mind.
You could say that, and if the football club's allowed to practice those kind of practices, what does that say to the supporters that they should be emulating? Because football's fairly tribal, but if that's what what represents us and what they practice, well, they're going to fall in line with it, aren't they? So I think it's a wider society issue.
See, the big thing as well, I must apologise for about the first 30 seconds. I was talking without a mic. Hopefully everybody could hear me through Lawrence's mic or mine's, which was situated about 2 metres away. Apologies for that. I was a wee bit excited, Lawrence, excited about this week in the world of Celtic, excited about the tremendous news that we've got in relation to A Celtic State of Mind being nominated for a treble of awards at the National Content Awards this year, but we'll talk about that a wee bit later. And when you look at the situation, what I was also impressed with, and we'll talk about him as we always seem to do, is the response by Ange Postecoglou. Do you feel that this will further galvanise us going into 2 massive games? The fact, Lawrence, that one of our star players has been targeted in such a foul way, it will galvanise us as a fan base, as a club, going into 2 massive games this week.
Yeah, definitely. Ange always speaks really well. Always been real impressed with him, but it is something that's will bring people together. You know, Kyogo, I think, has been universally accepted by Celtic fans. Maybe hat-tricks on your debut does that. It's come under, you know, it's just something no one should have to experience. Ange just come out and spoke on it. The club spoke on it. The Rangers have spoke on it and taken action. You've touched on it. It's a deeper society problem, but definitely I think Ange will use that to bring the players even more together and, you know, get that team spirit and bonding going. Yeah, it is a massive week. You know, we're away in Europe first. We've done the job at home. It's, you know, we've set ourselves up well for this second leg. If we can progress in Europe, I think it's certainly beyond my expectations for this season. You know, I was quite happy just to write Europe off and say, well, look, the main thing's getting a team on the park again and winning the league. Mm-hmm. So if Ange manages to take us through this tie, happy days.
Big thing for me. We'll go into more depth about the games individually, Lawrence, but expectations. You know, we were at that situation where we were hanging on for Eddie Howe for so long. And obviously we speak about everything that happens at the club on a daily basis. And it was Eddie Howe, and it dragged in and dragged on, and to the point where, you know, we didn't think for a moment it was going to collapse at the last minute. It did. There was then this, you know, underwhelming response to the, not by everybody, response to the appointment of Ange Postecoglou. And what he's done in such a short space of time, Lawrence, not just the football, but I just feel that there is a galvanising effect. You know, every single time he gets interviewed, he tells you something mainly positive, but something of worth that you can take away. We'll talk about his effect throughout the show, but I just feel that, you know, there's a lot of Celtic fans, myself included, who were, you know, we're looking at that situation and you know, very sceptical about what the future held for Celtic. We're sitting here a few games in. Yes, we have been knocked out of the Champions League, and we got off to a nightmare start in a domestic campaign against Hearts. But we've seen enough to know that we're in the right hands and we're on the right road, aren't we, going into the rest of this season?
Yeah, I think so. He's definitely got, you know, an ethos about him that we can all buy into. He's got the pathos and the logos there. You know, he's got the three things that makes him entirely credible with us. He's delivering it on the park. It's clear for everyone to see. I mean, we keep getting back to the two fullbacks that have been whipping boys for Celtic support. Two of our best players this season. You know, and I don't think that's just by chance. You know, Ange's obviously doing work for them, giving them instructions, and they're delivering from on the park. His signings have worked for him. So he's turning players that I think everyone had written off or thought were no good into better players. His signings are working, and the performances we're getting at home, you know, 6-0. It's
2 on the bounce, Lawrence. 2 6-0s on the bounce at home. Unbelievable. And you know what? And I said this, I think, over the weekend. It could have been 2 7 or 8-0s. You know, it was 6-0, but we created so many chances.
Yeah, I mean, I thought after the sending off against St Mirren, we turned our foot off the gas. I actually thought our tempo dropped. But as you say, it could. I think Boyce has got another bus going. You know, it could easily have been 10 both games, couldn't it? There wouldn't have been any complaints. Another day, French Eddie scores a hat-trick in both games. So, yeah, it's definitely creating loads of chances. St Mirren, you know, shouldn't have their goal chopped off. But, you know, a wee bit of luck for the defence there. So the clean sheets, hopefully we can start mounting them up, because that'll build confidence in the defenders. Certainly, I think they've all got more confidence with Joe Hart and goals.
No, without a doubt. And we'll have a wee chat about the defence, because obviously we've got 2 massive games this week, Lawrence. We've brought in one new player who may or may not make his debut against Rangers. I don't know how that will be viewed. We will talk about that, you know, changing the side. You've mentioned Anthony Ralston. Ralston's been the subject of much discussion this season. Ange Postecoglou, interestingly, when talking about the signing of Josip Juranovic, said that there's no way Anthony Ralston can be expected to play 60 games a season. He's in to support Tony Ralston. And that's a great way to look at it. I mean, there are players in there who have been expected to play 60 games a season for several seasons, Lawrence. But we continue the rebuild. We've brought in, currently we've brought in 8 players. There's quite a lot, as always, of speculation. There's 7 days remaining in the transfer window. We'll talk in detail about Eddie. That's the strapline today. It's all about, is this the last 7 days that we'll see Edouard in a Celtic jersey? And if so, are we going to get a signing off gift or two from Odsonne Edouard? So we'll come back to him. But when we're looking at some of the transfer ins and outs, we've brought 8 in so far. 2 of whom I think in Urhoghide and Shaw are very much viewed upon as being fringe players. I know that Shaw's dipped in to the Colts squad a couple of times as well. 7 players who could be deemed first team players have left the building as well, Lawrence. Now, we spoke about the concern around bringing in too many players all at the one time and hoping that we can kind of blend them into the philosophy of Ange Postecoglou. But looking at it, even with 8 coming in, 8 players who are deemed to be first team players, how many do you reckon we still need here? How many do you think realistically Celtic will bring in the next 7 days?
Well, I suppose a big thing, on the strapline, whether Eddie comes or goes, it's not stays or goes, it's not a major disaster for us anymore. You've got an option up.
That's interesting.
Kyogo.
Yeah.
Ajeti, that cameo there, he set up a goal, he looks fit, he looks thinner.
Give a bit of hope, eh?
Yeah, so if Eddie goes, it should give us a decent amount of cash to spend. If it stays, he's a decent player. He's starting to look a wee bit more interesting now. Whether that's because of the transfer window and he thinks, I went out of here, I need to get myself in the shop window and do something. Maybe it is. Where do we need cover? I think we need cover on the left for Ryan Christie. We've got Mikey Johnson, haven't we? Could play there, Kyogo, Abada, but I prefer Kyogo through the middle and Abada on the right. Mm-hmm. So Dembele's out long term, so I think definitely cover for Christie. Probably at centre half, I'd like to see another centre half come in. Welsh is looking good. Having Starfelt seem to be getting understanding. Yeah. When's Julian back? It's rumoured it's going to be towards October before he's back playing again. So if we get an injury at centre half, we're looking light there. We've got 3 left backs at the club. There's rumours of Scales coming in, but again, I don't know what kind of standard it is. I've seen a couple of his goals in the League of Ireland, but would he be coming in as a 4th left back? And I know he can play left back, centre back, but I've not seen a lot to say, look, he's the standard we need is cover or not. I'm hoping that, it's an Ange signing.
Does it sound like an Ange signing to you?
Not particularly, no. I mean, what does sound like an Ange signing is when he spoke about Japan and going back in January. Yeah. He's obviously got some long-term plan in there. So perhaps if we can keep Christie to the January transfer window, we may see Ange bringing in 1 or 2 more from Japan or from markets that he's worked in.
If you can go over there and spend £4.5 to £5 million, Lawrence, and get the kind of quality that we've already seen in Kyogo, then yeah, it will be worth waiting for. But I think when I'm looking at it, Leo Held looks to be on his way to Leeds. That seems to be dragging in personal terms, etc. But he's on his way to Leeds. You have Thomas Henry, who looks to be on his way to Venezia. That deal that Celtic were trying to pursue has gone cold, and he looks to be going elsewhere. Giacomakis is still on. He's someone who I think that we will bring in, because I'm looking at that Celtic squad, and I think one way or another we will offload Lee Griffiths. Now, let's have a wee chat about that, because the Nisbet for Griffiths seems unconfirmed at best. Hopeful, wishful thinking. A coverall. It would be a good deal, because you're bringing in someone who's going to contribute, and you're getting you're offloading a player who is bringing nothing but trouble at the moment to the club. The Liam Scales thing, yeah, he's incoming. I'm hoping that the club are not looking at the fact that Julien is due back September, October time, and that's fastly approaching, Lawrence. And we also have cover with Nir Beaton, who is a makeshift centre-half. And I'm hoping that they're not looking at the scenario with Liam Scales as being, yeah, he's the centre-half we're bringing in. And I know he can also cover at left-back. Until we get rid of Bolingoli, we won't be going anywhere near another left-back, I don't think. And so I'm looking at the situation, and I think that Giacomakis will be the big signing between now and the transfer window closing. I don't think there'll be any movement for Nisbet as a result of that. And then it leaves you with the query: what do you do with Lee Griffiths? Now, for me, Lee Griffiths, if he was to go to another club in Scotland, I think he would be a very prolific goal scorer. Who would he be suited to? Hibs, perhaps, Aberdeen, that level of club, I would suggest. Would they be interested in taking him on and all the baggage that comes with it? I don't think so. Absolutely, it's gone too far now. Yes, he's only 30 years of age. You've only got to look at different set of baggage, but you've only got to look at what happened with Anthony Stokes, right? And if you're bringing a player in and you're putting him on a contract with reasonably large wages, and he's going to have an influence on the younger element of your squad, you look at Stokes and you think, well, you're not going to take that risk because you can't count on him being there and playing a number of games and obviously being as prolific as his talent would suggest he could be. So I don't think the destination for Lee Griffiths would be in Scotland. So we were having a wee chat yesterday about it, Lawrence, and I was thinking, what would be his best move? And, would someone suggested online it would be good if he went to the States, started afresh, started anew. Why doesn't he team up with Ronnie Dyler? Played his best football, his career under Ronnie Dyler.
Listen, it could be for a move to the States, could work for him, but I mean, the rumour was Ronnie was having to weigh him every day to keep him fit. And
he got results, so didn't he?
Yeah, but maybe Ronnie's going, you know what, this is a headache I don't need.
So there is obviously still going to be some baggage.
Aye, so Ronnie's got New York playing well. Where does it go? As the window shuts, if someone was just to take him off us for a nominal fee, I wouldn't be disappointed at all. Whether that's Championship down south might look at it. He still scores goals, but it's who wants the baggage is, I suppose, what you're looking at, isn't it?
Do you think he can make an impact at Championship level, though, Lawrence? Because I look down there and what I see is the athleticism of that level is, for me, I think, going to be a problem for a player like Lee Griffiths.
I think athleticism has always been a problem for him throughout his career.
Mm-hmm.
But what it does bring is goals. And if clubs are desperate for a goal scorer, hopefully Celtic have told Lee's agent, listen, get working and try and find this guy a club.
Yeah, because otherwise I don't think he's going to be in the category. There's another player that I would expect to leave in Barkas. I don't know if they'll be able to tie up a permanent deal for him, Lawrence, but you would hope that they're working behind the scenes to try and get him a new club. There's absolutely no point when he's the third choice goalkeeper. And we also have Connor Hazard and Ross Doohan at the club as well, though I think Doohan was getting loaned out. And so for me, looking at the scenario here with the squad, I'm expecting one striker in, and I think Scales is our defender. Now, people might think I'm being a bit pessimistic there, but with Julien coming back and with the fact that we're well covered at left back until Bolingoli goes, I can't see us signing any more than two.
Yeah, signing, but I think we'll make use of the loan market. I could see us dipping in. We've got a habit of doing it and getting fairly decent players in on loan. So we've still got the City Group connection, even stronger with Ange in the building, isn't it? The ex-City Group manager. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of loans come in towards the end of the window. But I think it's about moving people on. You've got Barkas who want to move, you've got Griffiths, and you've got Bowie. Barkas is going to be alone, isn't it? But at least it will reduce your outgoings. So whatever you're saving on wages there, it gives you.
Well, you're probably talking, in the three players you mentioned there, Griffiths, Barkas, and Bolingoli, you're probably talking 50 grand a week.
I'm not too sure about that. I think Griffiths was on 15. We gave him another contract. I'd be surprised.
50 grand between the three players. I'm pretty sure that will be the average wage of a first teamer is 16 grand a week.
Yeah, but Griff was on 15, then we activated his final one. But obviously, he'd had his issues before that, not his latest issues, his second kind of issues. I think we would have offered him a reduced contract when activating. I think we'd have dropped it to like 7 or 8 and said, look, paper play and increased goals bonus. Barkas is going to be on a big wage. Yeah, it's and Bolly I don't think quite as big as Barkas, so I think 35, 40 a week, but still it's a substantial saving.
It certainly is when you think of what you could do with that and the personnel you could bring in with that, Lawrence. So here's hoping that there are some moves in and out of the building. Before we talk about what will be one of the biggest moves in odds and on Edouard, a couple of wee things I want to mention. First of all, there is a new book in the offing. It is a book on the late Johnny Doyle. It's called Celtic Daft. And it was written by Paul McQuaid, someone I think you know, Lawrence, forward by Johnny's daughter, Joanna Doyle. This has just arrived, so I'm looking really forward to reading that before speaking to Paul on Friday for a future episode of the ACSOM Retrospective. Before we get back into the here and now, talk to me. You're a couple of years older than me, Lawrence. You'll remember Johnny playing. What's your memories of Johnny Doyle?
Oh, sent off at Somerset Park for the ball hitting the referee. But he was just wholehearted winger. Great game against Real Madrid. Remember being at kind of St Anthony's, and obviously the news of death. But his death was just kind of devastating. But yeah, great winger for Celtic. Always gave his all. You know, you hear the stories about he used to turn up at the ground every day with his Celtic scarf on, and it's just, you know, someone that lived the dream, wasn't it?
Aye, definitely. And you know, having spoken to people that played with him, they always had a wee tale about Johnny Doyle. And for example, Andy Lynch and Johnny, when Johnny was at Ayr United, used to cross swords on occasion, and Andy made it into the infamous Johnny Doyle Black Book. I don't know if that's spoken about in the biography, but I'm looking forward to that. And Andy picked him up for that in his first day at training at Celtic Park, and Johnny physically went into the Black Book and scored Andy's name off because it was all about revenge if you had crossed swords, even if it was a Celtic player. Another one that I always found really funny was Johnny was playing for the reserves, and it was a game against Rangers. And back then, obviously, you played at the home ground. So if the match was at Ibrox, the reserves played at Celtic Park and vice versa. And the bus was travelling to the ground. The Celtic players' bus was travelling to the ground. And as so often happens when you're travelling on the motorways, Lawrence, a Rangers fan bus drew up beside it. And once they started spotting that there were Celtic players on this bus, you can imagine what was happening in the Rangers bus. So wee Johnny went into his inside his shirt and pulled out a massive crucifix, which he constantly wore, and put it up to the window. So you can imagine the reaction that wee Johnny Doyle got. He'd be looking forward, if he was still with us, to the weekend's game, and we'll have a wee chat about that as well. So that's the Johnny Doyle book. I'll be talking to Paul McQuaid this Friday about it. Fully produced interview, which will be on the YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Let's have a little look at the comments coming in then. And we've got David Bradley coming in with a few comments, and he thinks that we should get the money now and let him go. I think this is an interesting one, and it's a scenario I think that we're also in with Ryan Christie. You ask yourself the question, well, whatever you get is going to be reduced from what you think the value of the player is, Lawrence. So I remember the odds in Edouard figures were huge sums, you know. It's a difficult one to speculate as to what he's actually worth. I think if he was to be sold, particularly on the back of the news that, you know, potentially we got a lot more for Ayer than we thought we did. There was some news story suggesting that we got 17 or 18 million quid for Ayer, plus add-ons. I think I would be disappointed if we got any less than 20 million quid for Edouard, if we were to sell him. So the question is, do you keep him? And the question about Ryan Christie is, do you keep him? Can they contribute enough? Has the Ange effect been so positive on these two players that you think we need these guys to win the league this season?
Well, listen, with Christie, I think there's no argument that he's trying his heart out every game. And if he keeps performing like that, I would keep him. Basically because he's only got about 4 or 5 months left in his contract. So, you know, he can sign for free for someone just now. So I don't think you're going to get any more than $1 million just now if you're to let him go just now. We need to replace him. We're weak on the left. Eddie's different. He's got almost a year left in his contract.
Do you only think we'd get $1 million for Christie?
What would happen? He would sign for someone on a pre-contract agreement, and then they would come to us. Because he's free to speak to whoever he wants just now. Mm-hmm. So they're effectively just buying out 4 or 5 months of his contract. How much are they going to want to pay for that? I can't see it being a huge amount of money. Eddie, I can see 15 to 20 million. You know, he's a goal scorer, undoubted talent. But no bids, mate. There's a rumour he's looking for too much for his wages. So if Eddie stays, the last game there he seemed to be a bit more interested. He's not the worst player to be stuck with if Ange can turn him around. If you can get Eddie back to performing at top level. But still, as much as we thought he was particularly languid last season, he was still the top goal scorer in the league.
Yeah.
So if Ange can get him performing, you think he's going to better that performance, especially with the amount of chances we're creating this season.
Do you think you've seen enough in the last few games, Lawrence, to suggest that Ange can get the best out of Eddie?
I think I've seen enough of what Ange is getting from players. I'm not too sure if I've seen enough from Eddie yet to say that, but I think Ange has got the ability to get that out of Eddie. Listen, if Eddie doesn't get his move, I think it's obvious that he wants a move. He's clever enough to reflect and say, well, is it my performances to get anything to do with that, with me not getting a move? How do I get a move? Well, there's Aya, 17, 80 million pound move. What got him his move? His performances.
Mm-hmm.
His agents will be saying that to him, look, you've dropped off, you're not going to hit this. Because no doubt his agents are working, trying to get clubs interested in him just now. And they'll have some feedback from that for him as to why they're not interested just now or why it's not right. So the only thing that I would think that would mean clubs aren't interested in him was his level of application last season.
Yeah. Because, as you said, there were flashes. He was in amongst the goals, despite his ex-manager having a pop at him. I think that, he didn't fall off the edge of a cliff, But I think this season, I think there has been signs that Ange could work on this player. The next 7 days is going to be massive in relation to the future of his career. The Whistling Donkey reckons we shouldn't let him go for nothing. He's not up to rip up trees for us if he does stay anyway. Well, you know what? I don't know. We've seen the turnaround in Christie has been astonishing. Ralston, Rogic, I even think McGregor would come into that category. Can he do likewise with Edouard? Potentially. I mean, players are talking about the effect of Ange being up there with the effect of Brendan Rodgers. Yeah,
I mean, listen, you've named players that he's definitely turned around. It's definitely Callum of old, and Tom Rogic's, you get 60, 70 minutes out of him now. So what will happen when Ange gets the sports science guys in his ass for? We might even get a 90-minute Rogic. He's definitely surpassed anything I've seen in him before. So, yeah, I think if Eddie stays, Ange will be able to get performances out of him. If he goes, we need to have plans in place, don't we? We can't be facing a Moussa Dembele situation. He goes, right, there's no one. So hopefully we've been linked with enough people to suggest that there is work going on in the background. We would have deals kind of 7/8 completed, if you like, that it's just going, right, he's away. Let's get this one over the line and bring him in.
Yeah, Powerman 1988 makes the same or similar point. I think he'll go in the last day of the window. Powerman reckons it'll be for 12 million quid. Club unknown, West Ham, even Arsenal, or someone else. Interestingly, and I'm bringing up the Urban Kulshi again, if he contributes 25 goals, that'll be enough to see us through the Champions League groups. So it goes back to the original point, Lawrence. If we keep him, players like Edouard, players like Christie, we win the league, we get the automatic qualification into the promised land of the Champions League. So on the one hand, yes, you're losing out on transfer fees, perhaps. But on the other hand, you're getting your gateway into the riches.
Only losing out transfer fees if there's a suitable bid, and that's not come in for either yet, has it? I mean, Christie, I would do everything I could to get him to sign a new contract just now. It's the Ange effect. What does Ryan fancy? We're not going to pay anything like Premier League wages. We're not going to be paying 70, even 50, 40 grand a week. So it depends what Ryan wants from his career. Can he see it getting better under Ange? Could he see a deal happening with Celtic that say, well, look, another couple of seasons and we'll put a minimum buyout clause in? Maybe.
Well, moving on, because there's also an announcement, and I hope you're okay and nothing too strenuous or... There's Lawrence. As long as you're all right, Lawrence, I won't have to come over and give you CPR live on the broadcast. That would be a first. There's a couple of other things I want to cover before we move on. We spoke about Johnny Doyle earlier on. Last week, there was mention on the broadcast, on the bulletin, that the Hoops bar in the Gallagate was facing closure. I just want to clarify that's not the case.
Nope.
The building which houses the Hoops bar, I think there's 5 units in the building, is up for sale. But obviously, the leasehold of the surviving and existing businesses will continue as normal. So you buy the building, you buy, obviously, the leaseholds that's there as well. So just to clarify, the Hoops bar still there, still rocking on match day. Get down,
Listen,
have a jar or two.
not just in match days, outside of match days, I think Neil runs a cracking bar. It's, somewhere to call in, even outside of match days.
There you go. Nice wee advert there for the Hoops bar. So, yeah, apologies for the misinformation last week on Wednesday's bulletin. No want to throw anybody under a bus, but it was Wednesday's bulletin. Get down to the Hoops bar and support Neil down at the Gallagate. There is apparently a briefing, either ongoing or just before we came on live on the bulletin, from First Minister Nicola Sturgeon. If anything transpires that will affect attending the football, and I don't think it will, let us know in the comments section. Now, Moravchik comes in to suggest that Barkas is on 12 grand a week. That's interesting, because I think when you look at a transfer fee, you automatically think, Lawrence, that the weekly wage is going to be in the highest kind of echelons. So that would be interesting. And Johnny quite rightly says, yes, clubs do want to need to want the players. Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see what happens. There will be numerous incomings and outgoings, I'm sure, in the next 7 days. But got a couple of games coming up this week, Lawrence. So first of all, AZ Alkmaar. First leg of that game at Celtic Park, 2-0. I think excellent scoreline. There was enough to suggest, there was enough basically chances for Alkmaar to come away with a better result. So there was enough to suggest that this tie certainly is not over. And, on the group chat, and I think on yesterday, Russell was suggesting that he thinks Celtic will get through, but it will be after extra time. How do you see this going? It looks as though we're going to continue to play Ange's game. We're not going to change our game for the opposition.
I think we'll definitely continue with his philosophy. Listen, as much as we're enough to say that Alkmaar could have come away with a couple of goals, we could have scored a couple more as well. So, yeah, I don't... we're still going to be an attacking team. I think it'd be folly for us to just say we're just going to camp in behind the ball and try and get through 90 minutes. We're well capable of scoring an early goal. If we get to the situation where we've got 3 goals, it's a lot for Alkmaar to turn round. The fact that they're going to have to come out, they're chasing it now. It's going to leave plenty of room for us when we're attacking. We're a quick team, so I don't think it'll go to extra time. I think probably get beat 2-1 in the night and go through.
Well, you never want to see Celtic getting beat there. Hopefully, Lawrence will recover. He's having a few issues. I think he's suffering from the second vax. So, yeah, although we never want to see Celtic beat, if they win the tie, then, fair dues. That's excellent. And, of course, we know that Tony Ralston will certainly start that game because our new arrival won't be able to start the European match. It's a massive, massive game, which obviously a Celtic state of mind will cover. Now, in terms of changes then from the weekend, I mean, we're on a rich vein of form. Would you make any changes? I know that going into the game, and I think Edouard performed better than he did last season, for example. I think Hugo's better through the middle. Christie on the left. I mean, any changes you'd make, Lawrence?
Yeah, I'm looking for Hugo through the middle. Christie on the left. Midfield's going to be interesting because we've definitely got options, haven't we? Whether he goes Turnbull, McGregor, Rogic, I think's decent for us, but I don't know how fit McCarthy is. But we've got options now that we could play it slightly more defensive if we wanted, but still keeping an attacking philosophy with the team. I wouldn't change too much. Abada on the right. I don't know how close Forrest is. He's obviously been rested, but Abada's in a rich vein of form. Forrest has got experience though, but just now I wouldn't change too much. Cargo through the middle. I think Christie on the left.
Well, it is. It's great to have the options. And earlier on, we were speaking about Ryan Christie and his return to form. On this form, what you get is you get a player who excited when he returned from Aberdeen, and obviously, he had this moment at Murrayfield against Hearts. He became the player that he promised to be when we initially signed him. We signed Ryan Christie, went out for 2 loan deals. He went back to Inverness Cali. He went up to Aberdeen. He transformed his body shape completely changed, all through application, hard work. I mean, someone was telling me at the club that he put on something like a stone or a stone and a half in weight. It was clearly all muscle at that point, and his performances were outstanding. Now, they dipped, like a lot of Celtic players, but they did dip, particularly last season, Lawrence. But we're now seeing the player that he can be, and to be honest with you, I would be doing all in my power. I'm almost resigned, like I was to a degree with Ayer. I'm almost resigned that we're going to lose Eddie, right? Could we keep Ryan Christie? Could we get him on a new deal?
So I think any new deal would need to have a minimum buyout clause if he's going to sign it. I don't think we're ever going to match Premiership wages. But if it gets to the point and Ryan's also, if there's no bidders for him, or nowhere for him to go, or if he gets an offer in from a smaller team, say Championship, lower Premiership, but they're not going to say, well, listen, we'll pay you 12 grand a week. That's something we can match. He's got to think what's better for his career as European football and what Ange is setting up achieving. Mm-hmm. Would that be better for him? If there's a minimum buyout clause in it, then at least he knows what levels he's hit at Celtic before, what the rumoured bids have been before. So I think we could keep him. If Southampton come in and offer him 70 grand a week, though, I don't think we will keep him. So it depends on who the other suitors are. And that's just where it's got with his contract. He's 4 or 5 months left on it. It's very much going to be down to if there's another suitor. If it's a Premiership club, if they come in with wages we can't match, I think he'll be off. But no one's come in for it yet. He's been free to speak to clubs for a wee while. As far as I know, there's been no offer to him or no offer to Celtic to take him that bit earlier. So it's going to be a nervous week or so, waiting to see if anyone comes in for him. And even if they do and he signs a pre-contract, if I was Celtic, I wouldn't be letting him go. Even if they say, here's $1 million, I'd be, look, we need to get to that January transfer window, and then we can get his replacement in then.
As great as it is, and we're going to enjoy it, Lawrence. I mean, we started the ACSOM live bulletins a year ago, just over a year ago. And when we started them, we thought, this is going to be an amazing season. We're going for the 10, and at that point, we're going for a quadruple treble because obviously the Scottish Cup hadn't been played. And, it didn't quite turn out like that. But what we've seen was a drop-off in performances of so many players. And it was pretty clear to anyone of a Celtic persuasion, or most people, I can't say anyone, because then I'm talking for the entire fan base and I can't do that, was there came a point during the season where the change had to be made. We're sitting here so positive in what's happened with Ange Postecoglou and what magic he is working at Celtic Park. There's also a wee bit of frustration in my mind that we didn't make the change sooner, Lawrence, because we're at the moment looking at the last 7 days, and we know that there's still areas of that team that we need to patch up and strengthen. But you're thinking to yourself, even eventually when Neil Lennon departed, the last 10 games of the season, get somebody in to assess the squad. And, if Ange Postecoglou is what Celtic say he is, a long-term target, someone we'd been tracking for some time, Lawrence, surely we should have made that change sooner. We would, and then we would have been sitting here before the Champions League games in far, far better shape. That's the only niggling frustration I have at the moment.
Listen, the whole method of recruitment of the new managers was shocking. It was obvious Eddie Howe was dragging on too long. If Celtic thought they had him tied up, they're saying, but the legal agreement wasn't as tight as it wanted to be. It's, it didn't leave anyone at the club in a good place for it to go on like that. It would have been better whether it had been Howe or whoever for that deal to have been called sooner rather than later, then move on. And perhaps it would have been Ange. Perhaps he would have come in for the last 10 and would be a lot further forward. But then again, you don't know what other targets the club had at that time, who else we might have missed out on. You know, it might have been Roy Keane, another one of Boyce's buses. But yeah, it really was shocking, the whole negotiation. You know, but we've got Ange now, and maybe he's worth waiting for.
I think he is worth waiting for. Now, Lawrence, I'm going to allow you to recover, and I'm going to spend some time speaking to those who are tuning in to A Celtic State of Mind. I'll be pulling up as many comments as possible. You're watching on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, various other places. You're all over, and it's great to have you on board. I've got to thank every single person who's tuned in to A Celtic State of Mind over the last 4 years, but in particular over the last 1 year, where the channel has grown in a massive, massive way, and we've had loads of support from so many viewers, and we thoroughly enjoy it. We've got a great team together over the last year. Prior to that, you know, it was usually my voice or the voice of Kevin Graham that you heard, but we've now got a great team together. And amazingly, yesterday, you might have watched the bulletin and heard my reaction when Boyce and Tony and Amy were on, but we've actually been nominated for 3 national awards this year at the Football Content Awards. Now, I'm not going to spam everybody on the social media channels, etc., but we will be pushing this because it comes down to, partly down to the vote, an audience vote, then it goes to judges and they decide on the winner. So here's the background. A Celtic State of Mind started up in 2017. Within a year, in 2018, we won a football blogging award for the best football podcast. So that was when it was a kitchen table podcast, when I was sitting there with a wee Zoom system, not the Zoom that we get now. It was actually the name of the mic and all that kind of stuff. And we would put out a lot of interviews, one of which was a memorable interview with Neil Lennon, in actual fact. And then a couple of years later, we were the finalist in the Football Content Awards. They had rebranded it the Football Content Awards. And we were a finalist in the Best International Podcast. So that was us going from domestic to Champions League. We didn't win it, but we were finalists. And that was during the pandemic. So we didn't have the opportunity to go down to London for the big glitzy dance and all that kind of stuff. This year, 3 nominations. Unbelievable. And yesterday when I announced it on social media, I just announced, and I say just, I don't mean that in a negative way, that we were up for the best charitable campaign, because I saw that and I thought, oh, that's phenomenal, and I wanted to mention it, not realising we were in another 2 categories. The best charitable campaign, it was on a Celtic State of Mind's platform, but what happened over a weekend, the quadruple treble weekend, Lawrence, as it happens, is that our audience, a Celtic State of Mind and 19 other podcasts, Celtic-related, Celtic-minded podcasts, got together and raised 27 grand for charity. So yes, it was on the ACSOM platform, but it was a team effort where loads of people came together and we raised money for 4 tremendous causes at Christmas time. 27 grand, unbelievable amount of cash to raise, and you know, totally blew us away. So we've actually been nominated for that award, and if we go down to London in October and we win it, it'll be on behalf of every single person that tuned in, every single person that was able to throw a couple of quid in the pot, and every single podcast that was involved as well, Lawrence, because it really was, for me, an amazing message from the Celtic fan base during the pandemic. That this is what we're all about. This is what A Celtic State of Mind is. And I don't mean the podcast, I mean the state of mind. That's what it's all about. But also, we were nominated yesterday, once again, in the Best International Podcast section. So Champions League, I think we're up against AC Milan, Barcelona, and all that kind of stuff. So yes, we do need your assistance in voting. And as I say, I'm not going to spam it, but we will be mentioning it from time to time on the bulletins, and we will be putting it out on the social media. And the final, the third, the treble, is made up of Best Club Content Creator. So because we're dedicated to Celtic on this channel, we're also in for that. So it would be amazing, Lawrence, for us to get suited and booted and go down to London in October and pick up an award on behalf of the Celtic supporters.
Listen, it'd be brilliant. Night out in London's always good. As you said, going for another treble, you know, that the club seems to have made a habit of trebles, maybe not last season, but certainly the previous 4. outstanding. And even the young Robinson tour that the boy was on, he's up for the youngest, isn't he?
Yes.
So, yeah, be great to see if we can pick up one or all three.
It would be unbelievable. I mean, I remember the last time when I went down, just so you can see how ACSOM has grown with everybody tuning in, because that's how it grows. When I went down the last time, I couldn't get anybody to go with me, because we didn't have the contributor base, Lawrence. And I went down with my old guy, my old man, and we went down there, and he had a good night with Neil Ruddock, and obviously we won the award. It was tremendous, and I'm looking forward to some of the team members coming down with us and having a fantastic night. And it would be superb if we were to win it. And we will be asking for your help. So I'm going to pre-warn you on that one. Now, a few other things to discuss, and I'm going to dip into the comment section as well. There's a good point coming in from the Londoner. Griffiths is a very talented player. It's such a shame. I always get that sense. Lawrence, when a player like Lee Griffiths doesn't fulfil the potential that we know he possesses. And it's happened so many times, and I'm not picking on Hibs, but just look at some of the Hibs players, or the players who have been at Hibs. Anthony Stokes, Lee Griffiths, Gary O'Connor, Derek Riordan. There is a long line of footballers in Scotland who have not fulfilled their potential. Is it a Scottish issue? Is it a football issue?
I think it's probably a football issue. It's not just about having the talent. You've got to have the application. You've got to have the work ethic. No doubt there's a bit of luck in it as well. And I think just because you're talented doesn't mean you're going to have the work ethic it's going to get you there. Similarly, there's been a lot of less talented players had better careers, and a lot of that's just driven by their work ethic and their dedication to the profession.
I think Paul Lambert, every time I hear that, I just think Paul Lambert was one of the players, Lawrence. He totally maximised the ability that he had. He won a Champions League. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and look at somebody like John Collins.
Yeah,
he had talent, but he also had the dedication to match, didn't he? He was outstanding. Even if that was a court case that Fergus lost, but
didn't he lose many though?
No, you just wonder where he is these days, or if we could maybe we should get him back just to take on court cases. Just say, look, Fergus, something goes wrong, you just run with it. Now,
Johnny Doyle's getting a lot of love in the comment section. We're no surprised with that, Lawrence. Billy Reid comes in. We've got Johnny Doyle on the wing. God rest the wee man. Will McMillan. Johnny Doyle loved his attitude. He did have that Celtic attitude. A couple of players that's coming to mind told me that he used to wear the sovereign rings, the sovies. And if ever got you in a headlock, he used to give you one of them as well if you were in the ground staff, one of the younger guys. William Peden watched Doyle as well. Celtic legend, fiery, and played for the jersey, says Mally 67. Absolutely tremendous. Where is my Verve album? Well, it wasn't yourself that won it, T-Mac. I'm in discussions with the winner. This month it is a Fratelli's album. If you're watching on YouTube, all you do to get into the monthly draw is subscribe. You might be wondering what this abomination, some might say, is behind me here. This is a concept jersey, Celtic State of Mind concept jersey. It's Puma. It's got the ACSOM logos on it, and it's a complete one-off concept kit, not for sale. We'll give it away. Some brilliant artwork on the socials as well, Lawrence, with Andy Tom. So you'll be hearing a lot more about our concept series, because we'll be doing that time and time again throughout the rest of this season as well, giving away as much as we possibly can. And we've also got Jungle Lion coming in. Johnny Doyle was the bloke who had a few pints in the Gallagate then went up to play for Celtic. He was the typical fan. Tommy Burns said he was a fan that got lucky. I think we got lucky with Tommy and others, but he was the guy who went for the terraces to the pitch, Lawrence, wasn't he?
Yeah, undoubtedly, absolutely lived the dream. Yeah, he's always going to have a place in the hearts of all the Celtic fans, isn't he?
I'm just thinking as well about the Hibs thing, right? Someone was here the other day saying that there's a pub around about Easter Road. Anybody from Edinburgh might know this story a lot better than I did. And when George Best was at Hibs, he used to frequent this particular bar, Lawrence. And on one occasion, he got up to go to the toilet and he fell over because he had a few sherbets. And he just decided when he fell that he was just going to lie there and have a wee sleep. And by the time he woke up, somebody had gone over to the dartboard, picked up the chalk and actually done a line around George Best's kind of figure. Now, it would be amazing if someone had painted over that and it was still there. But yeah, there has been a lot of players. at Hibs for some reason, and then within Scottish football as well, generally, who have not fulfilled their potential. But as I say, my knowledge is on Scottish football, so I'm pretty sure that it happens far and wide within football terms as well, Lawrence, because it is a state of mind. You need to have the right mentality to be a professional athlete and obviously a professional footballer. And a lot of these guys just don't have it, do they?
Well, you spoke about George Best. Did he ever fulfil his potential? So I think just having the football talent and the ability in your feet doesn't mean you're going to have the application or be able to withstand the pressures. There must be a lot of pressures with it that go with it. So it's about getting it all in one package, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the thing. There's a huge amount of pressure, and when we're talking about Lee Griffiths, there is always that in the back of your mind. Also, the fact that he has suffered a lot of issues himself, and you're always taking that into account, Lawrence. But then it also gets to the point where you think, well, is this good for you? Because if you're one of these guys who, when he's on a football park, you're at your happiest, because that's what I think. I'm not expert about Lee Griffiths' state of mind, but it seems as though he just lives for his football, right? So when he's on the park, he's at his happiest. He's not playing football at Celtic. So it may be best for him to go elsewhere and start getting some game time as well. So you've got to think of that aspect of it.
Yeah, listen, I think it's best for all concerned if Lee Griffiths moves on. Who'll take him, who knows? And I think he's definitely got in him to play championship level down south. I think he would score goals. He's got the talent. Yeah. But until there's an interested party,
yeah,
he's going to remain a Celtic player. I don't think he'll play for us again.
By the way, I wouldn't put anything past Ange, and we'll talk a wee bit more before. We're in the last 10 minutes of the show here, but I would put nothing past Ange. We have a left-back crisis. He'll turn Bolly into a player, as far as I'm concerned at the moment. That's how I'm feeling. Right, Rangers, Lawrence, don't know if you've seen this, but the officials have been announced, and I know that you will be interested in this. So what we have is the fourth official, John Beaton. Happy with that?
I'm not too sure. Yeah, that's the boy that drinks in the Rangers pub, isn't it? Yeah.
Apparently so. Linesman, or assistant referee, sorry, line 2, Frank Connor.
Says what is, isn't it?
And the other assistant is David McGeechy.
I don't know a lot about him, mate, to be honest.
All right, no concerns. The referee, Kevin Clancy.
We'll see what it brings, mate. We'll see what it brings. If we get a fair application of the rules, I think we'd need to be happy with that, wouldn't it? A fair and consistent, shall we say. Well,
let's have a wee chat about the game then, because we have seen Ange Postecoglou now in 5 games in Europe. Obviously, Midtjylland didn't go the way we had planned. First game seemed to be going well. Bada opens a scoring on his debut, and Beaton did what Beaton did, and we've spoken long and hard about that issue. The tie was going to be an uphill struggle from there, going away from home, makeshift defence of Dane Murray, who played very well, by the way, and Stephen Welsh. We went into that, and it was a difficult tie to turn round, and it was very disappointing because it's one of the teams, Lawrence, that you think if we met them 3 or 4 months down the line, we're a better side. But the result stands. Jablonec, we did the business against Jablonec, and now obviously we're halfway through the Alkmaar test. So we've seen them in a European setting. We've seen them at domestic level, various kind of levels of standards, depending on your thought process. We've played St Mirren, Dundee, Hearts. We're now coming up against what I would suggest is our toughest challenge. And there's maybe an argument there to say that Alkmaar's been our toughest challenge. But it's a challenge in that it's a derby game. It's a massive intensity that's attached to that game. Lawrence Conley, if one man's going to keep his cool, it's Ange Postecoglou. I think we've learned that. He's one person who takes his time, sticks to his gun, has his own philosophy. What are you expecting? Because by then, we've got a right back who can play. We've already had Ange Postecoglou talking about Anthony Ralston needing support. I don't like throwing new players into a game against Rangers, Lawrence. I've seen it quite a few times in my Celtic supporting life, and I'm never comfortable with it.
So I don't think, barring a nightmare during the week, I don't think Anthony Ralston's done anything to deserve to lose the shot for that game.
So you get him over that line, and then you've got the international break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, he gets familiar with the squad. the defence is still learning to play as a unit. You know, there's a lot more. What was 2-6-0 wins? There's a lot more to come from this team. You can see what he's trying to do, but you can see sometimes the tempo drops off or the understanding's not quite there. I think, barring a nightmare or injury, Ralston starts. I can't say. I mean, why would you drop him on his form? You know, if you watch the way he's played all season, he's one of the first names in the team sheet.
People, I think, Lawrence, are talking about Ralston based on games that he's played against Rangers previously. I think that's what is in the mindset, because if you're basing it on this season, he's got to play.
I definitely. I mean, this is his longest run of games for us, but quite some didn't. His loan spells didn't work out particularly well, but if it's on this season, you're sticking him down. You might even be putting a bet on the bookies for him to score.
Well, why not? I mean, Russell Boyce is putting on a bet at the bookies every week for a 10-0 victory in the hope that it eventually comes up. David Bradley makes the point as well. Christie, turn up, please. I mean, Christie's, I'm not even going to call it a mixed bag. He's never really performed the way we know he can. Is this the week for Ryan Christie to show up against Rangers?
I think so. If he starts on the left, Ange has definitely got him playing. Surely Christie knows if he does want away or he wants a big club to come in for him, if he puts in a performance in this game, this is a game that will make people sit up and take notice, isn't it?
You know, Jungle Lion comes in again. I know that you've been involved already, but it's a good point. After this week, that might play into Ange's hand. Siege mentality. That's what we're talking about. The galvanisation. When you're oppressed, when you're targeted, Lawrence, and you come out and you express yourself. I hope that is the case. I'm going to be asking you for a couple of predictions in a moment, so I'll start thinking about that. Pat O comes in to say Sunday 4-3 to Celtic, Rangers to miss one of their 4 penalties. Is that your burner account, Lawrence?
Rangers getting 4 penalties in a game? That's ridiculous. That one, no, it has happened before, hasn't it? They've had 4 penalties in a game.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, so you've already said 2-1 defeat in the second leg against Alkmaar, yet Celtic will still go through. What's your prediction for the game at the weekend?
I think we're going to keep a clean sheet, and I think we're going to score 3.
We're going to keep a clean sheet, so 3-0 then?
Yep.
All right. And we'll see what the viewers are thinking about that as well. Please throw it in, let me know. Have I heard anything about the Kevin Nisbet deal? No more than anyone else, and I think that Jack Ross has probably said already that the Griffiths/Nisbet deal isn't happening. It sounds as though we are looking at bringing in Giacomakis, and if that's the case, then there'll be no deal for Nisbet. And it looks as though we're obviously focusing on that deal. I still think that Edouard will leave. I still think that Griffiths will leave. Whether or not you think we need another striker in is another argument entirely. You might look at that and say, well, Kyogo can play through the middle, you know, so we've got enough cover there, especially when Mikey Johnson comes back, eventually when we've got another right-sided player to back up Forrest and Abada and Karamoko Dembele. So I don't expect us to buy another striker if we get that deal over the line. But, you know, I think Nisbet's one of the guys I spoke about last season, Lawrence, and I stated on the podcast, I said, you know, I didn't think he was the player for Celtic. I didn't think, very much like Lyndon Dykes, remember all the speculation about Dykes, you know, I just thought, no, I don't think he's going to improve what we've got. I was of the same view about Nisbet, but as I've said a few times on this, you know, the passage of time, you do change your opinion on players. I'm a big fan of Kevin Nisbet. I think that what he's done at Hibs and he's pushed himself into the Scotland squad. I also think that with Nisbet, there was a period of time when he was at the Pars where he was at this kind of same stage that he's at the moment, Lawrence, where he's ready for that move.
Yep.
But it affected him and it affected his form. And I think that he's at that same stage at Hibs, and I'm not saying because I know we've got a couple of Hibbies that tune in, but I'm just saying that I would love to see a fully focused Nisbet, you know, and if it's in a Celtic jersey, I think he would prove the Paul John Dykes of last year wrong, and that he would come up to the plate and he would be a player for Celtic. Whether or not we're going to bring in 2 strikers, I find that unlikely in the next 7 days, Lawrence.
Yeah, listen, I can see 2 coming in. I can see over and above Scales, another centre-half and somebody coming on the left wing. If Eddie goes, you know, we buy the Greek boy. And it could be on the left and at centre half. It could be loan deals. It's how much will the Celtic board spend, even if we get, what was it you said, 20 million for Eddie? You know, it's. I don't see them spending too much more. I could see us making use of City Group contacts. It'd be unusual if we went a
couple of loan deals.
Yeah, it'd be unusual if we went a kind of close season without bringing in somebody on loan from City Group, wouldn't it? So
it seems to be the way. And let's be honest, if we've got a couple in, if Liam Scales and we got a striker in permanent deals and we got a couple of loan deals, as much as I don't like the short termism of a loan deal, Lawrence, to bolster the squad, I can see the thinking behind it. Gets us up to January and we might be able to do something permanently then. But one final word, one final subject before we go, and it's on Ange Postecoglou. The way in which, the classy way in which he dealt with the Kyogo situation, for example, Lawrence, is yet another reason to love this guy. What he's doing at Celtic has been absolutely incredible. And I remember when he done the mic'd up session, right? And it was something of a revelation. And then a lot of people in the world of football were saying, he's not saying anything. You know, he's not actually saying anything that's any different from what any other gaffer I've ever played under. But we were impressed for a number of reasons. And I think one of the reasons was the fact that we're getting access, that kind of access to our manager. And obviously, you know, people were for and against that. But since then, we've seen Ange's philosophy clicking into full flow, I think. This week's a massive part of that. I know that. Going into the international break, it'd be brilliant to get 2 results. But it's incredible, is it not? And I heard John Hartson talking about this other night, that one man has been able to make such a positive impact at this football club. I think back to last year, and it was doom and gloom, right? So we were coming onto these broadcasts after the game sometimes, Lawrence. You know, every game. So you're getting beat 4-1 in Europe, you're right on live after the game. And then some people says, he's being too negative. You know, you're getting beat 4-1 from Rangers and you're coming right on after the game. The 2-0 game was a hard one to beat, to bear. You know, the signs were there way back then. You covered the game with me, Lawrence. Yep. No shots at goal, 2-0 defeat. So you're looking at that and you're thinking, wow, there's a real deep-rooted issue here at this football club. There was questions around the culture at the football club. You think to yourself, this could take 2 or 3 years to put right. And bags of money, a bottomless pit of money to put this right. That's not happened. The personnel changes, they're not been minimal, but, you know, he's working with the same coaching team that Neil Lennon was working with, right? He's got a different CEO, granted. He's brought 8 players in, 7 have left. We done a pre-season broadcast where we were talking about upwards of 12 players leaving the building and another 12 coming in. It's not quite been as big as that, the overhaul, Lawrence. One man has galvanised this football club over a period of a few months.
Well, you've got to say he's done it with the team that he's put on a part. So, yeah, he's definitely setting the philosophy, the direction, and giving instruction what to do in the park. Kyogo's had a big part to play in it. I would say Tony Ralston's had a big part to play in it. So, he's definitely made a huge change. But some of that could be players going out the door as well. Let's be honest. And
Cham, you know,
Frimpong. With Cham, we decided to free him just to get rid of him.
Didn't want him as part of the rebuild.
Yep.
Didn't want him in and about the building.
Him in the squad.
Yeah.
You know, there must have been a transfer fee still in Cham, but he's decided, you know what, I don't want it anyway. I don't want him in the building.
Does it surprise you then that, you know, going back to the Griffiths situation, does it surprise you? Or would it be too much of a U-turn having given him that 1 year option?
So I think there's maybe more of a duty of care with Griffiths and
good point.
His issues in the past. I mean, I don't want to see him play for Celtic again, but I think Griffiths is probably a more complex issue, and maybe they're looking at that. And there's kind of way too much to go into with Lee Griffiths, isn't there? But I think just freeing him, maybe Celtic are saying, well, listen, we've still got a bit of duty of care here, but we need to be really careful what we're doing.
Yeah.
Cham, it was obviously wanted out. So that's different. I don't think Lee particularly wants to leave. Cham wanted out. I think you could tell that in his performances all last season.
Yeah.
So I think it was probably an easy conversation for them to have to say, well, you know how you went out? Yeah, Just go. We'll just free you then.
I think we'll look back on it though, Lawrence. We'll look back on it, and Cham, just think, what a great talent he was. Just didn't see it often enough. There's a few bright moments. He scored the winner against Rangers. He scores the winner against Lazio. He's part of a very successful club. But at this moment in time, it still feels a bit sour for me when I think in Cham. I think of the fact that we brought him in really as a Man City prospect. He's a Man City under-23 player.
Yep.
You spend the best part of £5 million on him. And I don't think we seen often or anywhere near often enough what that player was capable of.
I think it comes down, you were saying it's a Scottish issue earlier, players wasting their talent. Do you think we really saw application from Oliver and Cham?
No, not enough.
So it's the same kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And listen, we changed the transfer policy last season. He was one of the players we decided to hold on to. What was it, €14 million for Porto? So to do that in the space of 10 months, 14 million to zero. Jeez.
Absolutely.
Change.
Now, Lawrence, I'm impressed you managed to get through that, even though you weren't 100% fit. You almost failed a weight fitness test. Natasha wasn't with us today, but she will be returning for next week's bulletin. And once again, I just want to thank everybody for putting us where we are in terms of being up for 3 awards. It's very humbling, Lawrence. I know that a lot of things get said on social media, back and forth and all that kind of stuff. But really the important factor is when people come to you and say, you know what, I listened to you all the way through the pandemic and I loved it, and it was great to engage with people in a comment section and be part of a wee community that we're trying to build here at Celtic State of Mind. So absolutely brilliant. Kudos to every single contributor at a Celtic State of Mind, everybody who's involved behind the scenes, because there are a few people who don't appear on the screen, and to every single person that tunes in. And let's hope that we can go down to London and bring a couple of trophies back.
Listen, I walked into Squirrel Bar and Big James McCluskey, and they recognised me straight away. He was like, "Can you give me a shout out?" So it's a big hello to Big James McCluskey from the Squirrel.
James McCluskey from the Squirrel. Get voting for us, James. We've given you a shout out. We'll do it for anybody as long as you give us a vote. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always, on a Tuesday. And thank you to Lawrence Connolly for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.